Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Thursday, March 19th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Some Merced renters are dealing with conditions that have been called substandard.
Broken appliances, such as stoves or AC units, persisting mold, pest infestations, no running hot or cold water. The list goes on.
In response, the city is drafting new rules to address these living conditions. We'll learn more in just a moment, but first, these headlines. In a bombshell announcement on Wednesday, civil rights leader Dolores Huerta says she was sexually abused by Cesar Chavez. He's the late co-founder of the United Farm Workers Union. KVPR's Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado has this report.
Dolores Huerta said she had 2 unwanted sexual encounters with Cesar Chavez. Both led to pregnancies. And in a shocking detail, Huerta says she didn't keep the children. Instead, she arranged for them to be raised by other families. Huerta has never before shared this revelation. She said coming forward sooner would hurt the farm worker movement. She co-founded the UFW with Chavez. Huerta told the story to the New York Times, and the newspaper reports that Chavez also raped at least 2 other women. They were young girls at the time. The incidents happened in the early days of the farm worker movement. For KVPR News, I'm Crescencio Rodriguez Delgado.
Huerta told the New York Times that one of the sexual encounters happened outside the city of Delano in 1966. And reactions are pouring in from around the Central Valley to the news of sexual misconduct by Chavez. KVPR's Carrie Klein has this local reaction.
The New York Times story lays out in detail that Chavez molested and raped 2 teenagers. His abuse also extended to civil rights leader Dolores Huerta. She said he fathered 2 children with her as a result. Fresno City Council member Miguel Arias says the report shocked him.
It was stomach turning. I got lightheaded. It's devastating news.
Arias is the son of farm workers and called Huerta the, quote, matriarch of the Latino community. He's calling to remove the name Cesar Chavez Boulevard from South Fresno.
It's absolutely the right thing to do.
The boulevard was just named after Chavez in 2024. Other elected officials are also weighing in on the news. Democratic U.S. Senator Alex Padilla and State Assembly member Esmeralda Soria released statements in support of Dolores Huerta. Republican State Senator Shannon Grove proposed renaming Cesar Chavez Day as Farm Worker Day, and the president of Fresno State said a statue of Chavez on campus would be removed. For KVPR News, I'm Carrie Klein.
Meanwhile, the farm worker movement started by Chavez and Huerta says it's continuing its work. Members of the United Farm Workers Union rallied in downtown Fresno on Wednesday as a lawsuit plays out against the Trump administration. The UFW is asking a court to reverse wage rules for guest workers who work under what's known as an H-2A visa. The number of guest workers has ballooned in recent decades, and the UFW says that it is suppressing wages of domestic workers. Bertin Flores Esteban says he supports the UFW's lawsuit because the federal rules are undercutting his pay.
Tenemos mucho futuro. Mientras siga esta organización, mientras siga viva y siga en pie, va a haber muchas personas que se van a beneficiar.
He's worked as a mushroom farmer in Gilroy for the past 5 years. He says he wants the union to keep fighting for labor rights. Thousands of mental health workers with Kaiser Permanente held a 1-day strike on Wednesday over fears the company will replace therapists with artificial intelligence. The National Union of Healthcare Workers was joined by nurses at Kaiser hospitals across Northern California, including in Fresno. Kaiser, which is based in Oakland, says the AI claim is false and that AI will not replace human assessments. The company says it has hired more mental health staff and sees AI as a way to support patient care.
Join the movement to help sustain public radio in the Central Valley. KVPR is now 100% community funded, and your support has never been more important. It helps keep programs like this one on the air and keeps KVPR central to the Valley and to your life. We need 300 new supporters by March 20th to stay on track. Become a new monthly member now at kvpr.org/donate. Thanks for your support.
And now to our main story. Mold, a broken refrigerator, asbestos. These are all things most people don't want to deal with in their home or apartment. But for some renters in the city of Merced, that is a reality, and one that isn't always addressed. Alma Villegas is a reporter with the Merced FOCUS and has been reporting on this topic for our newsroom partner. Villegas spoke with one resident whose landlord had been cited and fined for concerns about living conditions, but issues like mold persist. And now the city of Merced is trying to step in to help deal with these problems. Central Valley Daily producer Jonathan Linden spoke with Alma about their reporting.
So you just reported on substandard housing conditions in Merced. Could you first start us off by painting a picture of what some residents are going through right now with their housing in Merced?
From my understanding, which is from speaking with tenants from different rental properties, is that substandard housing conditions is nothing new. They've been complaining consistently for years. Some have filed code enforcement reports with the city, and at least one property had dozens of habitability and housing law violations that forced the federal housing department to withdraw money to the landlord, money that is supposed to be used for repairs and maintenance requests.
Okay.
At least one resident alleges she's reported complaints to the city's code enforcement program that have gotten lost. In summary, residents are experiencing systemic issues, and the result is many tenants who are senior citizens, who receive public assistance benefits, who have experienced trauma, including domestic violence, are and have been forced to live with broken appliances, such as stoves or AC units, persisting mold, pest infestations, no running hot or cold water. The list goes on. Some property owners have been cited by the city. One property was fined more than $2,000 in violations last year.
Well, yeah, I can definitely relate to some of these issues and having non-responsive landlords. So I think a lot of people can relate to this topic. So it's my understanding, though, that Merced city officials are now responding to these concerns. And there's an ordinance that is being worked on right now that's up for consideration. What is the Merced City Council proposing right now?
Yes. And as with the tenant complaints, attempts by city officials to address this issue have been brought up again and again. 2 years ago, in 2024, the solution centered on the concept of a rental registry, which would essentially require all property owners to submit their name and information to a list monitored by the city or its code enforcement program. The list would be used to periodically inspect rental properties within city limits. Fresno has a similar ordinance. In Merced, the program would itself be funded through the fines from the code enforcement violations. That was an emotionally charged meeting with one current council member and a former council member exchanging expletives and prompting the mayor to break up the meeting twice.
Wow.
That ordinance was proposed by current council member Fu Zhang. The ordinance being proposed now centers on a different concept. It targets serial offenders. And the way it does that is it's also a sort of registry or list. City officials are discussing details now and aim to introduce that ordinance in May. But this ordinance proposed by Councilmember Shane Smith will put the spotlight on landlords who repeatedly violate health and safety codes.
And as you've mentioned, this is a proposal. It's not officially law yet. Do we have an idea of when this could be up for a vote?
Yes, so they aim to introduce the ordinance in May and vote on it.
Okay. And you also report about so-called slumlords in Merced. Could you talk about what exactly slumlords are and what they're being accused of specifically in Merced?
Slumlords are what people have referred to as property owners of rental properties or landlords who neglect to fix repairs or who provide inadequate maintenance of a property they are renting. California has housing laws in place that protect this basic standard of living, or what are safe living conditions. That means landlords are required by law to provide housing that is free from mold, for example, which is linked to allergic reactions. The Merced City Council voted to codify existing state law, AB 548, at this Monday's council meeting. And there were concerns brought up that code enforcement officers don't have an updated list of what constitutes a health and safety or habitability violation.
Okay, and one of the problems you write about is that many of the owners of apartment complexes are actually from out of town. Is that a widespread thing that's happening in Merced?
I'm hoping to do more reporting on this issue because there's definitely a pattern emerging from the code enforcement records I've been reviewing. Two of the three property owners who were cited by the city live in Southern California. The other landlord is the county's housing authority.
And I know you also spoke with several residents who are living in these substandard housing conditions. Did they tell you at all about why they're deciding to speak out now?
So they are not just deciding to speak now. They've been voicing these concerns for years.
And so have they been bringing up these topics to the Merced City Council for a while now, but now they're finally deciding to take some type of action, or?
Yeah, that's a good clarifying question. So residents aren't citing the code violations. The city's code enforcement reports show violations under its municipal code. One 2023 report at Merced Gardens Apartments, for example, cites the landlord with violating Title 8 of Merced's Health and Safety Code, which, among other things, requires landlords to abate offensive odors on premises. The tenant complained that the heater in the wall gave an awful smell, like something burning.
Okay. And through all of this, it does seem like the city, while they are trying to do something, they are still limited to some degree in how they can actually help residents. Is that correct?
According to some city officials, yes, that is true. Others, such as council member Fu Zhang, are saying the city can do more, beginning by listening to affected tenants.
And so some of the city council members who are saying they can't do more, have they cited any specific reasons as to why they can't do more than what's already being done?
Yes, some of those things that they are citing, they're advocating for it to be included in the slumlord ordinance. So housing programs to be included in this ordinance that the council is currently discussing.
Okay, and that leads me to ask, Alma, what is next for residents in Merced? It seems like the city may not come out with an ordinance to tackle this issue for a few months. You kind of hinted at them maybe addressing it in May. What happens between now and then?
Tenants and advocacy groups are reporting they are continuing to demand accountability from city officials as well as federal and state housing agencies, including coordinating roundtable discussions with affected tenants. It sounds that in the end, the goal is to establish a process where tenants can report unsafe living conditions without fearing eviction.
All right. Well, Alma Villegas, reporter with our news partner, the Merced FOCUS. Thank you so much for joining me and breaking down your reporting.
Thank you, Jonathan.
That was Central Valley Daily producer Jonathan Linden speaking with Alma Villegas of the Merced FOCUS. And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.